College was a weird time for some of us. And just like your mom, college football stadiums are housing skeletons in their closet. Yes, inside many stadiums there are hidden rooms, secret labs, live animals, relics of the past, entire other stadiums, and just like your mom's past, a whole bunch of things you never knew about. Today we're looking at super secret hidden areas inside college football stadiums. The cemetery outside Bryant-Denny Stadium. While Alabama's 2024 college football playoff hopes were buried when they lost to Oklahoma, right outside their stadium there are actual bodies buried in the ground. Evergreen Cemetery dates back to the early 1800s and it's literally across the street from the huge stadium. This is prime real estate, however, it can't be developed because, dead bodies will haunt you forever and shit. What's interesting about the cemetery is that people are dying to get in here, dad jokes, as every plot has been sold and has been sold out since 2013. And the only way to get in here, besides dying, is if an existing plot holder decides to sell, like back in 2018 when 3 plots sold for $32,000. Anywho, a lot of Tuscaloosa old money and Alabama alum are buried here, and it's something that you wouldn't notice walking by the stadium unless someone told you about it. Bryant-Denny might have bodies buried outside the stadium, but this next college football arena actually had bodies in it. Skeletons inside Neyland Stadium. Okay, this is more of a clear up of misinformation than an actual hidden area. In the movie The Blind Side, Kathy Bates' character tells Michael Oher that there are literal bodies buried in Neyland Stadium in an attempt to dissuade him from going to Tennessee. She was half correct or partially correct. Like the entire movie was somewhat partially correct. Up until 2017, skeletal remains from the nearby Body Farm, a forensic lab run by the FBI, were cleaned and processed inside Neyland Stadium as the university's anthropology program was actually located in the building. That facility has since been moved to Strong Hall, but yeah, up until then, there were over 1,000 skeletal parts in the stadium, but never actual full bodies. Neyland used to have less skeletons in their closet than your mom, but they aren't there anymore. Speaking of weird things that were hidden underneath the stadium, oh wait, before I get into this next one, here's a quick word from our sponsor. It's hard to believe there are only 4 more weeks of the NFL season left, but there is still both the college and NFL playoffs, baby, and you can turn your knowledge into cold hard cash. Right now you can get up to $1,000 in a first-time deposit bonus by using my code 5points at UnderdogFantasy.com. Let me show you how Pick'em works. In my opinion, the easiest way to play and win. You simply pick 2 to 8 stats of your favorite players and choose whether they will go higher or lower. And if you go 5 for 5, you can win 20 times your money. Last week I actually hit on all 3 picks, so this week I'm going George Kittle less than 4.5 receptions, Kyren Williams higher than 73.5 rushing yards, and Matthew Stafford more than 244 passing yards. Let's effing go. So after this video, head to UnderdogFantasy.com and use my promo code 5points or hit the link below and get started right away. Again, you can support this channel and my content by heading to UnderdogFantasy.com and use promo code 5points and get a first-time deposit bonus of up to $1,000. The creek under Sanford Stadium. Do you remember when Georgia was a football team that couldn't get it done over bigger opponents? Constantly choking? Well, just like they have buried that past, there is an entire creek that is buried beneath Sanford Stadium that runs underneath the facility. Tanyard Creek, as it's known, runs parallel to the stadium, but then it disappears under the stadium into a 680-foot long tunnel that is 14 feet wide and 6 feet tall. This was built long before Sanford opened in 1929, and its entrance is supposedly closed off, though you might find the occasional rat, opossum, or UGA student down there smoking weed. They also have bats down there, as the culvert is essentially a giant man-made cave. But speaking of bats inside Kyle Field. Did someone say tradition? Well, Kyle Field has an unusual one, as they house and encourage Mexican free-tailed bats to live inside their stadium. Why do they love the flying rodents? Well, bats in the area help control insects. Before Kyle Field was massively renovated, the bats were much more prevalent in the odd-looking field, and just like the rest of the SEC, used to shit all over the place. When the new stadium was built, the Bats had to find another place to live temporarily. They have returned, however, there is much less of them than before. Speaking of flying rats, Phil Knight's locker in Autzen Stadium. Many donors and alum get special perks associated with shelling out billions of dollars. Well, Phil Knight gets his own locker at Autzen Stadium. Who is this guy? He's the founder of Nike, you know. You might have heard of that company. The Oregon alum has donated over $1 billion to the school, which serves as one of his de facto marketing arms. To be fair to Knight, without his money, you wouldn't get these dope-ass uniforms, and nobody would have ever heard of Oregon football without him. But yeah, for all the money he has shelled out, he gets his own locker in the locker room, which they say he has never used. So there is a spot being taken by someone who doesn't deserve it, and then there is a space being taken up by the past. That is really interesting. Hidden underneath Bobby Dodd Stadium is another stadium. Yes, if you're a frequent watcher of my channel, you would know in my video on the stadium, which was opened in 1913, it houses the old Grant Field underneath the new stadium that was built over in 1947, concealing the old West stands underneath the new stands in a time capsule. Yes, the old stands are underneath here with a bunch of chairs and stuff from days gone by. Bobby Dodd Stadium is an interesting one, so if you want to learn more about it, you can watch my full video, which is linked below. But there's another stadium that has relics of the past hidden in it, and it's not from when they were a relevant football program. The hidden dorms at LSU's Tiger Stadium. Now, this was one I knew about, but I had no idea how huge the dorms were underneath LSU's Tiger Stadium. For more than 50 years, 1,500 students lived simultaneously in the dorms below the stands in less than desirable conditions. They were put there because in 1931, the school's AD could use earmarked funding to make a larger stadium. You know, back in the days when the university funded the football program, not the other way around. The dorm rooms are small and didn't have air conditioning for a long time and were gradually seen as shitty accommodations, and they were no longer offered as living spaces in the 80s. They aren't very useful for anything as they are small concrete rooms that really can't be repurposed. Like, you can't even make them condos. Quick note, when the visiting teams come to Death Valley, their entrance makes them walk by a flimsy tiger cage with an actual tiger in it, meant to intimidate LSU opponents. Fortunately, the only thing that makes visiting teams cringe is Brian Kelly's jokes.
I'm in favor of execution. Maybe our entire team needs to be executed after tonight.
But this next stadium takes mocking the visiting team to the next level. The pink locker room inside Kinnick Stadium. Oh, is this an 80s movie where a mischievous group of football players broke into the stadium and painted the visiting locker room pink, and everyone laughed because the color pink is so... The room has been painted pink since 1979, and it was the brainchild of Hayden Fry, who believed the pink color unnerved the opposition. I don't really buy that. Was his intent to get players to come into the locker room and stop thinking about football and start thinking about sucking dick? Some Karens oppose the pink locker room, saying that the pink color is sexist, but the locker room has survived any threat of a new paint job. To be fair, the color is probably more offensive than Iowa's football team. Other teams have done this too, like Notre Dame. Colors are mixed in a lab, but this last hidden college football stadium feature is a lab. The Mirror Lab, Arizona Stadium. A.E. Douglas was a scientist who came to Tucson and wanted to study stars and trees, and he put both of his labs inside Arizona's stadium. While the tree study lab is no longer used, the observatory mirror lab that is in the stadium is still active. Yes, inside the belly of this stadium, they are building huge mirrors that are used in telescopes and observatories all around the world. So the University of Arizona has a mirror lab underneath it. Does New Mexico have a meth lab in their stadium? Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe.